I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the murder for hire of a dad who just wanted to raise his boys. Dan Markel loved his children, and that's why he was murdered. Here's the story. Dan Markel, a celebrated law professor and loving father, was shot execution style in his Tallahassee garage on July 18th, 2014, in the middle of a vicious custody battle with his ex-wife, Wendi Adelson, who was trying to move their children to South Florida. Prosecutors say the real motive lay not with Wendi herself, but within her family. Charlie Adelson, her brother, and a wealthy Miami area dentist orchestrated a murder-for-hire plot to end Markel's resistance to relocation and assure full custody and control. In November of 2023, just days after Charles was convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation, Donna Adelson, his mother, and Markel's former mother-in-law, was arrested at Miami Airport moments before boarding a flight to Vietnam. She now faces identical charges: first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation, accused of funding and coordinating the lethal plot rooted in vengeance and control of Dan's children. Held without bond, her trial is now set for August of 2025, while the once elite Adelson family crumbles under public shock and courtroom exposure. You know, sometimes in the cases that we cover here on Court TV, you look at killers and why they do what they did, and sometimes they're in desperate situations, or they've had a rough life, or, you know, things like that are part of the story. That's not part of this story. This Adelson family had a great life. Harvey built this incredible business. Charlie, his son, was doing amazingly. The cash is rolling in. They're living down in South Florida, hobnobbing it up. Life was good. Life was good. But that might be one of the reasons that all this happened. Because, you know, we need everything that we want. We will not be stopped. We will not be defeated. It took a while, though, for these arrests to take place. The case didn't necessarily go cold, but it was dormant. And investigators set up an undercover, and they call this the bump, right? Not the disco dance from back in the day, right? It was a bump where an undercover would bump into Donna Adelson, have a conversation, try to stir things up a little bit to try to get them talking again, because they were getting wiretaps and undercover recordings of the Adelson family, who they suspected all along in this case, but needed to gather and garner some evidence. So let's take another look at a really important part of this investigation, which was the bump, where an undercover officer air quotes, right, bumps into Donna Adelson.
Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? Just want to give you this. Listen. No, don't be scared. Listen, just want to let you know that we know that your family has been taking care of Katie and her friend Hugo for quite some time after your problem up north has been resolved. And I want to let you know that my brother, he's incarcerated. He helped your family with this problem you guys had up north. And we want to make sure that he's going through some rough times. We want to make sure that you take care of what he's going through, the way you're taking care of Katie and Tuco. Well, this will explain it. Thank you.
Amazing, right? Cool as a cucumber after being approached by someone saying they're connected to a murderer. Wow. Okay, this bump is huge, and it brings us to the first question in our investigation. What did the bump prove? What did it prove in this case? Here to help answer that question is Monica Jordan, mitigation specialist and defense investigator in Florida. She worked for the convicted hitman Luis Rivera, who I believe the undercover was pretending to be connected to in that. And joining us on the phone, Carl Steinbeck, former prosecutor, defense counsel, and host of the Carl Steinbeck channel on YouTube. He's on the phone. Thank you both for being here. Monica, what do you think of this bump? What does it prove to you?
To me, it proves that she knew something. I mean, she didn't immediately say, "What are you talking about?" She continues to listen to him talk about, you know, and get his whole message out before she even says, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I think it absolutely proved she knew what he was talking about. And that's why she was as cool as a cucumber.
Yes, so cool. Carl, I want to take a listen because Donna ends up calling that undercover agent. It takes a little bit of time, but calls the number that she's given in that paper by the agent during this bump. So let's listen to that call, and I want to get your reaction to that.
You approached me on Alton Road. You handed me an article from the newspaper about my ex-son-in-law. You told me I need to call you and help your friend who was in prison. Now, at the time you did that, I didn't understand what you were talking about. I didn't call you back. Then you mail me a threatening letter. Then you send me a text message to my phone that says I'm not taking you seriously. So I am taking you seriously. And I really want you to listen to me. I have to tell you, I mean, this is important. I have been so stressed out. I have spoken to 10 or 12 people who are close friends of mine, telling them about this and basically picking their brains and asking them what I should do, because I don't know your friend. I don't know your friend who is in jail. You mentioned a name. I don't even know his name. I never spoke to him. I don't know what he looks like. I've never met him. I'm sorry your friend's in jail, but I don't know what that has to do with me.
You know exactly what it has to do with. You know exactly what it is. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me. You just got to listen to me.
You need to ask your friend who this person looks like, what their name is, something, because I know there's a big reward out there, and if you need money for your friends, that's the way to get it.
Okay, Carl, what are your thoughts about what the bump and this follow-up call proved to you?
Well, there's quite a number of things, Vinny. Number one, like Monica was saying, it shows that Donna was intimately involved in all the details of this murder. Another telling thing is it also shows that the extortion defense that Charlie used in his previous trial 20 months ago was completely fabricated, because that's never discussed among these two. Keep in mind, this bump happened right before Sigfredo Garcia was arrested by a month or so. And so they thought they were in the clear for almost 2 years. And then all of a sudden they get hit up with this guy talking about how they're tied into the murder of Dan Markel. So it's very telling the way their actions were. And it also shows that not only Charlie was involved in the murder, but also Donna, as well as Katie, because this triggered also Charlie to subsequently call Katie and then have a meetup with her where they got more recordings of their conversation. And it also shows how poor planning this murder plot was, and this was a flawlessly executed bump. And this actual call that she gave back, it shows that this bump was really good in terms of getting more information out of them and showing they're not going to let up on this. We're dialing up the pressure against you, Donna. And so Donna's call, you could tell it was very scripted. She's very nervous. And she's even lying to this undercover agent where she says, I talked to 10 or 12 of my friends. Well, you know, why didn't you call a lawyer? Why don't you call a lawyer? You guys are intimately tied in with all these lawyers, high-powered lawyers down there in Miami, and you don't call a single lawyer. And, oh, by the way, what about calling the cops? That's what a normal person would do, is call the police on this guy that's threatening you. But what do? They try to handle it internally, which, again, reveals this was a Southern Florida Adelson murder plot that took out Professor Dan Markel.
Yeah, Monica, that's such a big part of this, right? If your son-in-law is murdered and all of a sudden you're being approached by someone who is connected to the murder, would you not fear for your safety, the safety of the rest of your family, perhaps the safety of your daughter, perhaps the safety of your grandchildren? But none of that happens.
Correct. And I agree with Carl. She should have gone to the police. But more importantly, she's still trying to control the conversation with the agent. Listen to me. I don't know who your friend is. Maybe you can describe him to me. I'm so confused. That's just all fodder. She is controlling the narrative, which is what she's done with her children in this marriage and her grandchildren and throughout this entire conspiracy to commit murder.
Carl, that's such a great point by Monica. Even in that moment, she is attempting to control it. Do you think that part of Donna Adelson trickles into her upcoming murder trial, that she's going to attempt to somehow control this murder trial?
Absolutely. I think you can see it in the exhibit list that the defense attorneys have presented, as well as their witnesses. And I think all of it just shows that they have really nothing to show for in a defense. It's going to be sort of a repeat of Charlie's. They may try to claim she's really not aware of what everything Charlie was up to try to create some distance. But this call is what's going to seal her fate. All right, this bump and her manner then and the way she acted on all these wiretaps, it seals her fate. There's no question, but that a jury or any reasonable jury is going to find her guilty very quickly.
All right. Carl Steinbeck, thanks so much. Check out Carl Steinbeck on YouTube on his channel. Great insight into this case and other cases. Monica's going to stick around. Coming up next, would Donna have ever returned from Vietnam?
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot.
Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage begins this August on Court TV.
I was assaulted by another inmate while I was here the beginning of October.
October 2024?
Yes.
And when you say here, do you mean the Leon County Jail?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Since you began experiencing that pain, since October of 2024, have you requested medical treatment?
Yes.
And what has the response been?
They said they would take an x-ray, but in the meantime, I could have Tylenol.
Life is a little different in the big house. Donna Adelson is locked up waiting for her murder trial. She's tried to get out several times unsuccessfully. And a big part of it has to do with how and when she was first arrested. Let's take a look at the body cam video of the arrest of Donna Adelson at the airport.
I don't want to give it to you. Why do I have to? Because my attorney said not. Why do I have to give it to you? This is evidence. It's fine.
Put your hands behind your back like if you were praying. Let me help you out so you don't hurt yourself.
You'll be freezing. You'll be glad you have it. When did they issue a warrant?
So what happened is we have to take you to our warrants room for that information to get entered, and then after that gets entered, before we can take you to the jail, to the local jail.
Okay, because I didn't know there was a warrant. How would I know that?
Donna Adelson at the airport with her husband Harvey. One-way tickets to Vietnam. Vietnam, that's one of those countries that doesn't participate in the voluntary extradition of people. We don't have an agreement with Vietnam that they'll extradite people back to the United States who are wanted for crimes like, oh, I don't know, murder. Which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Would Donna have ever returned from Vietnam? If she doesn't get arrested in that moment, would she have returned? Here to help with our investigation, Monica Jordan, also joining us, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Tim Jansen. Great to see you. Before we answer this question, I want to play this clip. This is an open call. Donna Adelson caught on an open line, I guess had been speaking to Charlie, and it was still recording even though Charlie wasn't on the other line behind bars. But Donna is speaking out loud to people who she's in the room with, I guess in her home. Let's listen to that first and then talk about whether or not she ever would have come back from Vietnam.
The other thing I don't understand that my daughter could help me with, but we've been looking it up over and over, because things change if there is extradition from Vietnam. Because we've looked at all the places. I mean, I could go to Korea and China, but there's no extradition. But we're looking for places where there's no extradition. Maybe she knows about. Maybe she can look up the extradition issue before we waste our time.
Is she going to tell on you that my parents are in the country? My lawyer told us to do that. Okay, but if you mention it to Wendi, is Wendi going to tell?
You tell her beforehand. I need to tell you something as an attorney who doesn't talk and has nothing to do with the case. It just has to do with Mom and I and some decisions that we have to make. Yeah, I know you want to bring her up and show her where everything is. Because in a plane crash, no one's going to know where anything is or who belongs to what. So I would like her to come up here so she could see it.
Absolutely amazing that that was captured on audio, by the way, on the open call. All right, Tim, what are your thoughts here? Do you think she ever would have come back from Vietnam?
First, she's never coming back, Vinny. She didn't plan on coming back. She planned on either killing herself or going to a non-extradition country. And in her planning, she had a third party buy the tickets so the FBI couldn't be alerted. And she didn't even book a return flight. So she was never coming back. She was leaving. She wanted Wendi to come to the house to see where everything was because her and Harvey were never coming back.
Monica, this is unreal, right? She's captured at the airport. This is like a scene from a movie on her way to Vietnam. Donna Adelson in Vietnam. Like she's trying to explain that this is some sort of a vacation that they were taking. Do you think she was ever coming back?
No, and I think there's something very telling in her statement to her friends and probably Harvey, who she was speaking to, and that is, we can't, I want to tell Wendi, but we can't because she'll tell somebody. Well, when I'm going on vacation, the whole world knows, and they know where I'm going, and they know how to get to my documents if something happens to me. But the fact that she doesn't want to tell Wendi is probably more evidence that she's not coming back than anything else to me, even more so than not having a return flight, because she's scared to death Wendy's going to tell somebody and it's going to ensnare them in this trap where they can't leave.
Let's take a listen, because Donna Adelson had to explain all of this in a hearing, this open call. Let's see what she told the court.
So your testimony is that you weren't trying to go to Vietnam because you wouldn't be able to be extradited from there.
So my husband actually had said, you know, we've been to Vietnam before with friends. We were on vacation, and it really was like a place of peace. And so he said, if we go to a non-extradition country, then if the law enforcement decided that they wanted to arrest you or me, whatever, both, he said, we won't be sitting in a foreign prison waiting months to go back. We could buy a ticket and we can go home. And my understanding was that I could go home and I could turn myself in if that's what they wanted.
Tim, that's sort of clever in a way. Like, I guess it's the only way you could attempt to explain all of that. Are you shocked that they waited that long to attempt to flee?
I am shocked. I think Dan had sold Charlie a bill of goods that he was walking out, And you can recall there were some conversations between Charlie and his mother saying Dan thought we had this thing won. She thought they had this thing won. That's why she was fleeing. And when she heard Georgia say, stay in touch or something to that effect, she knew she was next. And that conversation at the jail was done by mistake. She didn't hang up the phone. And that's how they got alerted that she was going to be traveling. And that's why the warrant wasn't in the system. The state and the FBI had to hurry and get the judge to sign the warrant. Agent Sanford was driving to the airport. They found out she was on the flight, and the judge signed the warrant like about a half hour before that he took off. I think he signed the warrant at 4:30, and that flight was at 8 p.m.
Wow, that's unreal. So if they're not on that open call, they're in Vietnam. This trial never happens.
That's right. Now, the only other thing is she contacted a neighbor or a friend of Charlie's asking for locations in Vietnam. He got tipped off because he's like, I don't even really know her. They called the state attorney's office and said something sounds suspicious.
Wow, unbelievable. Okay, Monica Jordan, always great to have you on the program. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon as we get closer and closer to this trial. Tim's going to stick around. Up next, do Donna and Wendi Adelson love each other? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murder for hire of Dan Markel, a case that should have been resolved in family court, but instead has resulted in a series of criminal murder trials. Here's the story. Dan Markel, a respected Florida State law professor, was gunned down in his driveway in 2014. An execution-style killing that stunned the academic and legal communities. As investigators peeled back the layers of his bitter custody battle, a disturbing family dynamic emerged. At the center were his ex-wife, Wendi Adelson, and her mother, Donna Adelson, whose deep involvement in Wendi's personal affairs raised suspicions. Prosecutors allege Donna orchestrated a murder-for-hire plot with her son, Charlie Adelson, to eliminate Dan and free Wendi to relocate with her children to South Florida. Prosecutors allege emails and secretly recorded conversations suggest Donna was the family matriarch, pulling the strings, pressuring Wendi, managing finances, and expressing chilling resentment towards Dan. Though Wendi has not been charged, her closeness to Donna and the family's coordinated actions have drawn sharp public scrutiny. Donna now faces charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation. A dramatic fall from grace that has shattered a once prominent South Florida family. This story is about family dynamics, to say the least, right? The dynamics of one family breaking up, the divorce of Wendi and Dan, and what to do with the children, and then the family dynamics of the Adelsons, you know, Donna, Charlie, Harvey, and of course, Wendi. So interesting what was captured on audio in this open call where Donna had called Charlie in prison. Everything's recorded, right? Charlie drops off, but the recording keeps rolling. Donna now speaking to people in her home. And in this part that I'm going to play for you, she's speaking about her daughter, Wendi. Very revealing, because usually, like the conversations, you don't expect the world to hear. Let's take a listen.
So I wrote this last night. We know you never ask anything about your brother. This is 8 o'clock last night. But we just got off the phone with him, and the first thing he asked was, how's Wendi holding up? I didn't have the heart to tell him that you never called us or asked about him. I just said, we weren't up to phone calls right now. Everyone looks to protect you. I bet you've got a lot to think about. But then she didn't answer. So then I got another call from Charlie at night, and I said, just got off the phone with Charlie. He's worried about you. He wants to know why we didn't speak. I told him a lie. I said, we're only speaking with you and Dan right now. I couldn't bear to tell them the truth. Your sister never even called us, is the truth. So she says this morning, I thought she'd be racing over here last night. Yeah. Dear Mom, I know you are upset by the verdict, but the anger directed at me is not justified. I don't know how much anger we don't. I'm not responsible in any way for Charlie's situation.
She didn't think the world was going to hear that, but those, revealing your thoughts. These are private conversations on an open call that got recorded. Here, Donna's talking about Wendi. What is going on here? All of this brings us to the next question in our investigation. Do Donna and Wendi love each other? What is this mother-daughter relationship all about? Is it about love at this point, after all that has transpired? What's going on? Here to help answer that question, Joel Waldman, host of Surviving the Survivor podcast, which has gone extremely in-depth in this case over the course of many, many years. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Sydney Rushing. Great to have you both here. What do you think, Joel? Do they love each other? Is it mutual? Is it back and forth? Does mom love her daughter? Does her daughter love her overbearing mother?
Well, Vinny, you know my mom well. She was married to my father, who passed away, sadly, for 63 years. And when I interviewed her about it, she said, I don't really know what love is. I just know that I care deeply about this guy. Well, when it comes to Donna and Wendi, I'll tell you the same thing. I have no idea what love is, but if it is transactional and insular and expecting something sort of quid pro quo, then yes, I think that they still love each other. I think, though, that in that jailhouse call you played, the so-called hot mic call, they spoke for like 5 hours a day. This is Donna and Charlie after his conviction for 1 full week. They spoke about 5 hours a day, and Wendi came up on more than one occasion, and both of them perturbed, to say the least, about her lack of interest in Charlie and basically lack of interest in this case overall, although a lot of people think that Wendi is at the center of it.
Let's take a listen, Sydney. I want you to hear Wendi talking a little bit here about her mom, Donna.
When was the last time you talked to your mom? Did you talk to her today, yesterday?
I talked to her yesterday.
In her emails, and we referenced one of them while you've been here on the stand, she talks about you giving performances and playing roles. Did you discuss anything about what you would do here today in court with your mother?
No.
Is your mom overprotective of you?
Yes.
All right. And is it fair to say she's, a little on the controlling side?
I don't think she's controlling, but she's definitely overprotective.
Did she ever try to micromanage your life?
Maybe, yeah.
Did she have an interest in who you were dating and who you weren't dating and who you should be dating when you were single?
I think she was usually disappointed that I wasn't dating more.
For example, isn't it true that she would, not let you drive to and from Tallahassee to South Florida?
Well, I used to drive before I had the boys, but they were young, and she preferred to come with me and give me some extra support.
I want you to answer the question. What was the most important part?
Of the divorce for my mom.
Yes.
It says here that for her it was relocation.
Okay, Sydney. Does a series of murder trials change the relationship between a mother and a daughter when the daughter's been testifying against everyone, including her brother?
So I think it changes the relationship. But, when it comes down to love, I definitely think that Wendi still loves her mom and Donna still loves her daughter, right? There's that mother-daughter love that I don't think ever, will go away. But I definitely think their relationship has changed. One thing in this is, when the questions were, was her mom controlling? Was her mom overbearing, things like that. And Wendy's kind of like, well, maybe a little. And she answers the questions almost like she's still kind of trying to protect mom and maybe not being fully honest, or maybe she from the outside, or she can't see herself from the outside looking in and seeing that that's exactly what mom was doing. She isn't charged in this case, and this may be another situation where my overbearing mom just steps right around Wendi and does what she thinks is best to try and get Wendi to come back down to South Florida versus what Wendi actually wanted.
Joel, this is so interesting, right? Because this whole thing, we go back to what it's about. It's about these two children and where they're going to live, right? This family breaks up, where are the children going to live? Yet Wendi obviously not charged, not yet, may be charged somewhere down the road, always possible. But what's your take on the relationship between Wendi, Donna, and Charlie that to this point would paint the picture that a mother and a brother would do all of this for Wendi?
Yeah, well, I think Wendi cast herself sort of as the damsel in distress. This is my own opinion, and she was essentially the catalyst, whining and complaining about being stuck in Tallahassee with her husband Dan and her children, and basically igniting this flame, getting Donna to act and putting Charlie in the position of acting as the tough guy, person who's going to set up this hit. And eventually all that talk and all that blathering became reality. One of the interesting things is we've been monitoring phone logs now that Donna's behind bars. She was in Leon County, where Tallahassee is, and was moved to Wakulla. And interestingly, as far as we can tell, no calls from Wendi to Donna, but plenty of calls from Harvey to Donna. So it seems like Wendi has forgotten a bit about her mom, at least while she has been incarcerated for this period of time after her arrest.
Let me ask you, Sydney, what do you, in Donna's upcoming trial, how important is this relationship going to be, you think, for the jury to understand?
So I think that's going to be a pretty big piece because, they're trying to say that Donna was the mastermind behind this. Donna's the one who put this all together. So I think that trying to see what that relationship is something that is, honestly, I think is really going to hurt for Donna. It's not going to help. I think someone might try and sway a jury saying that any mother would do that, or do this for their daughter or something like that. But that relationship, knowing how micromanaging it is, how overbearing and just in control she has to be, that works against her during the entire trial because again they're framing her as the mastermind. Basically, Charlie's the one who did it, but she was the mastermind behind it all. That's really I think it's really gonna hurt her. And it's a piece of the puzzle, but. I think that when the testimony comes out, Donna's not going to be in a very good position.
Sydney Rushing, great to have you on the show. We'll be talking a lot in the future about this case as we get ready for it to start. Joel's going to stick around. Still to come, did Donna literally launder the money?
Was the money damp?
Yes, ma'am, it was. And I called Sigfredo and I told him, I was like, there's mold on this money. And he's like, well, blow dry it. And I was like, but why would there be mold on the money?
This week.
Join us each morning to get trial ready for the day's proceedings. Plus, deeper dives into true crime stories with our daily spotlight.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
These are the cases that captivated the world.
Couldn't keep my life straight. They were killed by their own children.
That challenged the legal system and ourselves. Court TV, Legendary Trials.
I said, Katie, I don't have $350,000 in cash. And she's like, you said you did. And I was like, no, cash isn't, I can write a check for $350,000. I don't need to take out a loan. And I walked over to my safe. I opened it up. And I'm like, here, take a look. And I took it out in piles and put it on the dresser next to us. And I said, go ahead and count. Because that's not $350,000.
And did she count it?
Yes, she did.
How much money did she count?
$138,000. She put it in her purse. And she asked me, she goes, how can you get the rest? And I'm like, hey, that's all the cash I've saved up from forever.
Okay. Charlie Adelson admitting that he paid Katie McBanoa money. He's claimed at trial that it was being extorted, but it was payment, as the jury said, payment for murder for hire, $138,000. But there's this one fact surrounding the money that has always like kind of stuck in my head. Like I'm trying to understand it, trying to figure it out. Take a listen to Catherine McBanowa, Katie McBanowa, talking about that money.
Was the money damp?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Explain what you mean to the jury.
A couple days after that, I went and I opened the bag and I called Sigfredo and I told him, I was like, there's mold on this money. And he's like, well, blow dry it. And I was like, but why would there be mold on the money? And he's just, I don't know, just blow dry it. So I believe his parents or his mom might have washed the money.
You mean like physically washed the money?
Yes, ma'am.
And why do you think his mom did it?
Because he was always adamant about telling me he didn't have any money in his house. And he told me that his parents had just stopped by right before I got there. So all of a sudden he had money to put in the trunk of my car.
Whoa. That brings us to the next question in our investigation, the damp bills. Did Donna literally launder the money? I've had a hard time understanding and trying to figure out why the money was damp, why it was wet. Here to help us with our investigation, Joel Wallman and Tim Jansen. Joel, do you have a theory on this one?
I do, and it's one word, paranoia. This has nothing to do with germ phobia. I'm just channeling my own Jewish mother here and what she might think. And I think Donna realized what she was doing is obviously not kosher and could be, could circle back to haunt her. So I think she literally washed the money in the washing machine to remove what she thought might be any DNA evidence that may prove that it was touched by either Donna and or Harvey Adelson. So giving a whole new definition to money laundering. That is my personal.
It's unreal. Let's take a listen to Charlie Adelson on cross-examination talking about the money.
Did your parents drop off money to you on the night of the murder?
I never saw my parents there. You could look at our cell phones and you'll find that out, that we never saw each other.
I did look at the cell phones, and what is on there is your mom texts you, quote, outside your house. And
look at the tower information.
I think you testified that meant she was just passing by on the roadway.
She was approaching the area, to see if I was home.
All right, and do you know what your response was to her text?
Yeah, like 20 or 30 minutes later, I said 10 minutes.
I'm 10 minutes out, is what you said.
I think I said 10 minutes, but yeah, I'm not home.
Doesn't that indicate you're going to meet them at your house in 10 minutes?
No, I told her to let me know when you're going to be in the area.
Was the money that Catherine McBanowa got damp?
I never gave her any money that was damp. The money I gave her came out of my safe.
Was it damp?
No, I took it out of my safe. I put it on the dresser. She put it in her purse.
All right, Tim, what are your theories about where the money came from, and was it damp, and why was it damp?
Well, I've defended money laundering and I've prosecuted money laundering. This takes it to a whole new level. You have really bad criminal defendants who aren't used to committing crimes, who are terrible at it. She probably did try to launder it, probably watched some show and saw some forensic show where they were able to get DNA or fingerprints on money and tie it back to her. Katie gave pretty good information, and Charlie's whole story about I gave her this money, I was being blackmailed. She said it was in a bag. He said he put it in her purse. And the whole money thing, he staples the money. How these people treat money really shows how petty and dumb they are. And the last thing where Georgia locked him in, hey, we're near your house. He says, I'm 10 minutes out. They live like 35 minutes away. So they were going to drive all the way to his house, not knowing he was going to be there, and just turn around? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And the whole conspiracy theory is laughable, completely laughable.
Let me ask you, Joel. I mean, you've covered this for years. I've spoken to so many people connected to the case. You know every fact inside and out. What is your theory on how the Adelsons ended up in this predicament? You know, you're living a nice life. It's a nice life in South Florida. You go to court, you win, you lose. So you can always work something out. Tallahassee, yeah, it's far away, but it's not across the country. How did they end up where they ended up here?
Yeah, you know, I channeled my mother earlier. My father was a psychiatrist, and he had a very simple way of describing things, and I would channel him by saying pure stupidity. It was a series of really bad choices. I think that, you know, Donna, Harvey, the whole family, to some degree were in on this. They knew about it, minus Rob, the estranged son. And I think it began as a conversation, you know, almost as a joke or a punchline. Hey, wouldn't it be great if we could take out Dan Markel and the kids could come down here? And Donna, who's obsessive and started thinking and ruminating about it, perseverating, was able to coax her son, who wanted to be a tough guy, who was dealing steroids on the side. And one thing just sort of picked up on another. And you've got the damsel in distress, Wendi, who's kind of poking everybody along the entire way. And it went from talk to making these awful choices with the, you know, with this sort of happenstance fact that Katie McBanna was dating Charlie, and she happens to be the baby mama of a guy who is essentially a career criminal. And then it all just fell into place, and the plan was carried out. And now they see the ramifications and repercussions of criminal activity and the reality of all that.
Tim, you know what, and it's hard to get into their minds, right, and how you end up where you end up. But I think Joel did a great job of explaining how it could happen here. The one thing that's not in the equation is, hey, how do you think it's going to impact two young boys who don't have a father, right? Like, if any of this was about caring for those children, you would never even think about eliminating their father, a loving father. You know how many kids out there are dying to have a loving father like Dan?
Well, you know what, Vinny? They don't think of the consequences because they believe with their money and their knowledge, they were above the law. They insulated themselves with these lower class people who had criminal records. They had a buffer in between Katie, and they were dumb enough to put her on the books. These were terrible criminals. And this all gets back to Donna. It's all about control. Yep. They wanted it. They wanted those kids, and they didn't think about those grandchildren.
Tim Jansen, Joel Waldman, thank you both so much. We'll be speaking again and again and again. All right, so why was Donna Adelson allegedly so desperate to have her grandchildren close by? I think it's pretty simple. Her son Charlie was a playboy. He loved fast cars, beautiful women, and wasn't close to settling down. Her other son, Rob, was estranged from the family because he dared to marry out of the faith. So Wendy's children may have been Donna's only chance for grandchildren. Grandchildren who she felt a need to control. The question is, did she resort to murder to get that control? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.